In the hallowed halls of Vatican, power and holiness coexist in a paradoxical dance. Here, beneath the lofty domes and behind the ornate facades, a complex history unfolds. A history where the divine vow of spiritual leadership often clashes with the intoxicating allure of earthly power. The Vatican, the world's smallest sovereign state, is home to the papacy, the highest office in Catholicism. The Pope, often seen as a beacon of holiness and spiritual guidance, is also a figure of immense power. However, history paints an intricate picture where the sanctity of the papacy is not always mirrored in the actions of its leaders. Power, as they say, can corrupt, and the Vatican, with its centuries-old history, has not been immune to this. The vast power that comes with the papal office has, at times, proven too much for the men who wore the papal tiara. Some succumbed to the darker side of power, their actions standing in stark contrast to the sanctity their position demanded. From the reign of Pope Stephen VI, who held a macabre trial for his deceased predecessor, to Pope John XIV, who allegedly turned the papal palace into a house of ill repute, the history of the Vatican is marred with instances of power run amok. Pope John XV's reign was marked by greed and corruption, while Pope Benedict II sold his papacy not once but twice. And then there were the darker chapters. Pope Innocent IV sanctioned the use of torture during the Inquisition, while Pope Urban VI's reign triggered the Great Western Schism, a split within the Catholic Church that lasted for nearly 40 years. Perhaps the most infamous of all was Alexander VI, a member of the notorious Borgia family, known for his scandalous lifestyle and the shocking tournament of whores. As we journey through time, it's clear the papacy is not always synonymous with holiness. The paradox of power and holiness in the Vatican serves as a reminder that even the most sacred institutions are not immune to the pitfalls of power. The short reign of Pope Stephen VI was marked by a bizarre, macabre event. Ascending the papal throne in 896, Stephen's tenure was characterized by an intense loathing for his predecessor, Pope Formosus. This hatred was so deep-seated that it led to one of the most grim episodes in papal history, the infamous Synod of the Corpse. In an act of posthumous retribution, Stephen VI ordered the exhumation of Formosus, putting his decayed body on trial. A dark spectacle unfolded as the cadaver was dressed in papal vestments, seated on a throne and subjected to a mock trial. The charges? Perjury, serving as a bishop while still a layman, and aspiring to the papacy during the lifetime of the previous pope. The macabre synod ended with a guilty verdict. Formosus's papal vestments were stripped off, 3 fingers of his right hand were cut off, and his body was dumped into the Tiber River. His reign was short, yet it left a grim mark on the papal history. Pope John XIV, a ruler who turned the papal palace into a den of iniquity. This was the man who ascended the papal throne on the 16th of December 955, and whose rule ended with his death in 964. His reign was far from exemplary. It was an era of scandal and sacrilege, where the papal palace, a place supposed to be a beacon of faith and piety, was transformed into a house of ill repute. John VI's actions were a stark contrast to the sanctity that the papal office demands. He was infamous for his sexual misconduct, with allegations of raping female pilgrims who came to the Holy City seeking spiritual solace. But his transgressions didn't stop there, for he was also accused of embezzlement. The faithful who came bearing offerings for St. Peter's Cathedral were left aghast and betrayed, as their gifts meant to further the cause of the Church were misused for personal gains. Adding to the list of his unholy deeds, he was known to invoke pagan gods during games of dice. This was a flagrant violation of the first commandment, a direct assault on the monotheistic teaching of Christianity. Some even claimed that he went as far as worshipping the devil himself. These actions led to his dismissal in 963 by a council convened by the Roman Emperor Otto I. His removal from the papal throne was a testament to the magnitude of his transgressions, a clear signal that even the highest office in the Vatican was not immune to accountability. His reign was a dark chapter in papal history marked by scandal and sacrilege. Pope John XIV, a leader who was supposed to shepherd the flock, instead led them into a den of wolves. His story serves as a reminder that power, when unchecked, can lead to a downfall that echoes through the annals of history. Pope John V, a man of greed and corruption. A man who ascended to the papal throne in the year 985 and reigned until 996. His reign wasn't marked by holy deeds or wise leadership, but by an insatiable greed and deep-seated corruption. He was a man who saw the Church's wealth not as a sacred trust, but as a personal treasure chest. He shamelessly used the Church's riches to fund his lavish lifestyle and to entrench his family in positions of power. He didn't even attempt to hide his venal actions, leading to widespread knowledge of his deeds. The people, seeing the blatant abuse of power and the sacrilegious use of the Church's resources, couldn't help but despise him. Pope John X's reign is a stark reminder that the papal throne can be tainted by greed and corruption. His greed and corruption earned him the hatred of the people. Pope Benedict XVI, the only pope to be anointed thrice. Indeed, his tale is an oddity in the annals of the Vatican. Born Theophylactus of Tusculum, he first ascended to the papal throne in 1032, barely 20 years of age. His reign was marked by scandal and debauchery, casting a shadow over the sacred halls of the Vatican. However, in 1044, Benedict chose an unconventional path. He decided to step down. But this wasn't an act of humble self-abandon. Instead, he sold his papacy for a grand sum of money. Here was a pope who turned the Holy Seat into a commodity, a transaction that spoke volumes about the depth of corruption and disregard for the sanctity of the office. Yet the tale of Benedict IX doesn't end there. The following year, he returned to the Vatican, reclaiming the papal throne. His second reign, however, was short-lived. After a mere month, he vacated the throne again, this time handing it over to his godfather. But once again, it was not an act of generosity. His godfather had to pay a hefty price of 650 kilograms of gold for this honor. In 1047, Benedict XIX embarked on his third and final term as pope. His return, however, did not signal a change in his behavior. His reign was still characterized by scandal and corruption, ultimately leading to his excommunication. His story serves as a stark reminder of the perils of unchecked power. A pope, anointed thrice, yet remembered not for his spiritual leadership, but for his scandalous actions. His reign was a testament to the corruption that can be bred by unchecked power. Pope Innocent IV, the pontiff under whose reign the Inquisition flourished. Meet Pope Innocent IV, whose papacy spanned from 1243 to 1254. Innocent IV, born Sinibaldo Fieschi, was anything but innocent when it came to the pursuit of heretics. His reign was marked by a fervent desire to protect the orthodoxy of the Church, a noble cause that was unfortunately executed with severe brutality. Under Innocent IV's watchful eye, the Inquisition, a group of institutions within the Catholic Church tasked with combating heresy, expanded its reach. He believed that to protect the Church, it was necessary to root out heresy at all costs. So, in 1252, he issued a papal bull, Ad Extirpanda. This chilling document legalized the use of torture by the Inquisition to extract confessions from those suspected of heresy. The papal bull was a game-changer. It gave inquisitors unprecedented power. They could now inflict unimaginable pain on those they accused. The instruments of torture proliferated under Innocent's reign, each one more terrifying than the last. The rack, the strappado, the thumbscrew, all these became common tools in the hands of the inquisitors. Innocent IV's approval of torture was a significant departure from earlier church teachings, which had prohibited the use of such methods. His decision reflected a shift in the Church's attitude towards heresy. Heretics were no longer seen as misguided souls in need of guidance, but as dangerous threats to the Church's authority that needed to be stamped out. While it's true that Innocent IV was a man of his times, his endorsement of torture has left a lingering stain on his legacy. His reign marked a dark period in church history, where fear and torture reigned supreme. It's a stark reminder that even those who occupy the highest offices can sometimes make decisions that result in profound suffering and injustice. The reign of Urban VI, a period of division and violence. The year was 1378. The air in the Vatican was thick with tension as Urban VI ascended to the papal throne. Little did anyone know this was a precursor to one of the most tumultuous periods in the Church's history, the Great Western Schism. Urban VI, originally Bartolomeo Prignano, was a man of humble origins. However, his reign was anything but humble. A mere few months after his election, dissent began to brew. The majority of the cardinals, regretting their choice, attempted to invalidate their decision. They wanted a do-over, a second chance to elect a more fitting leader. However, Urban VI was not one to step aside quietly. His response was swift and severe. He turned against the cardinals who dared to conspire against him. His form of punishment? Allegedly, he subjected them to torture, relishing in the echoes of their screams that filled the dungeon and reached his apartments. And so, the Great Western Schism was born, a time of turmoil when the Church was divided, and for a while not one, not two, but three popes claimed the throne simultaneously. The faithful were left in a state of confusion, their faith shaken to its core. Urban VI's reign was marked by violence, division, and an iron fist. The man who was supposed to be the spiritual leader of millions, the embodiment of the Church's ideals, was instead a symbol of division and cruelty. His actions sparked a schism that left the Church divided for nearly 40 years. It's a stark reminder that power, when wielded without wisdom and compassion, can lead to destruction and chaos. Urban VI's reign stands as a testament to this, an era that bore little resemblance to the ideals of love, unity and compassion that the Church espouses. His reign was a time of division and cruelty, a far cry from the ideals of the Church. Alexander VI, a pope from the infamous Borgia family, known for sin and scandal. Alexander VI, originally Rodrigo Borgia, ascended to the papal throne on the night of August 10th to 11th in 1492, after a tumultuous conclave in Rome. His election was not without controversy, as the Borgia family was notorious for their corruption and scandalous behavior. Alexander VI's reign was marked by rampant nepotism, where he appointed numerous relatives to high-ranking positions within the Church. His children were no exception, with his son Cesare Borgia becoming a cardinal at just 18 years old. But the nepotism was just the tip of the iceberg. Alexander VI's papacy was also riddled with scandalous behavior, with his notorious orgies being the most infamous. One such event, known as the Tournament of Whores in 1501, was a debaucherous spectacle that shocked even the most jaded Romans. But it wasn't just the orgies that were scandalous. Alexander VI was also accused of numerous crimes, including simony, the selling of church offices, and even murder. His reign was so scandal-ridden that it led to calls for a council to depose him, a move that was unprecedented in the history of the papacy. Despite these scandals, Alexander VI was a skilled politician, managing to maintain his hold on the papacy until his death in 1503. His reign left an indelible mark on the Church, not for his piety or leadership, but for the corruption and scandal that seemed to follow him at every turn. His reign was a scandalous period that left an indelible stain on the papacy. It serves as a stark reminder that the papacy, like any other institution, is not immune to corruption and scandal. The story of Alexander VI is a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the potential for corruption in even the holiest of institutions. From the macabre to the scandalous, these popes have left a dark mark on the history of the Vatican. We've journeyed from Pope Stephen VI's gruesome Synod of the Corpse to Pope John XIV's unholy deeds, even venturing into the corrupt reign of Pope John XIV. We've explored the peculiar case of the thrice-anointed Pope Benedict XIX and the chilling era of the Inquisition under Pope Innocent IV. We've witnessed the schism under Urban VI and the infamy of Alexander VI, a Borgia whose name still echoes with scandalous tales. Yet it's important to remember that these are but shadows in a long, complex history, and they don't define the entire narrative of the Vatican. The institution has also been home to many revered figures who have embodied compassion, wisdom, and spiritual guidance. Despite the dark chapters, the Vatican continues to stand, a testament to the enduring power of faith and the resilience of the Church.